Welcome to Point of Impact. I want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. Since Kale and I are the ones killing the deer, Steven asked me to host the show. One thing we want to go into that's a little bit different than usual is not just the kills, but we also want to talk about what we do down in Salisbury, where Kale and I are from, different than what Steven and the guys do up at the Honey Creek Ranch. Now up at Honey Creek, you've got thousands of acres, continuous acres. This makes for one of the best deer hunting farms, I believe, in the state of Missouri and also the Midwest. It's absolutely unbelievable. What Kale and I have, on the other hand, is a little bit different than what's at Honey Creek. We have smaller farms that are dotted across our area, which gives us some advantages and some disadvantages. One of the advantages is we're able to hunt different places at different times in the year based on what we have going on. With the different farms, it gives us a lot of access points since they're smaller, and also gives us the ability to get in there and get after the deer we want without causing too much stir and be minimally intrusive, which is one of Point of Impact's top goals. So what we want to bring to you guys is a little bit of a different view than what you see from up at the Honey Creek Ranch, and show you that you can get it done on small farms with proper management and a lot of persistence. We hope you guys enjoy what we have to bring to you this week. Thank you for tuning in.
Point of Impact is brought to you by Under Armour. Go where you don't belong. Rage, the revolutionary rear-deploying expandable broadhead. Big Game Tree Stands. Rock solid. Nocturnal lighted knocks. Bass Pro, the granddaddy of all outdoor stores. Muddy Outdoors. And McBee Custom Homes.
When we go out hunting, we go through the same struggles as everyone, plus some with the camera. And there's been numerous times whenever the cameraman can get on something and the hunter can't, and vice versa. And that's something that makes it extremely frustrating at the end of the hunt. And when you put in so much work through management, scouting, getting in, and just setting up takes what seems like forever. But whenever you do all that work and you come home night after night after night, feeling like an unsuccessful hunt, what you have to take from that is lessons from each hunt and move on, what you did wrong, what you did right, and move on to the next hunt. So Kale and I have had our fair share of bad hunts, but we were able to take those and put them into what turned into be a real successful season. And by doing that, we allowed ourselves to enjoy every hunt since we took something from each one. So see here, as we started with unsuccessful hunts, what we did and fought through it in order to get into that peak part of the Missouri whitetail season and end up putting bucks on the ground. All right, guys, we're here. It's September 15th, the first night of bow season here in Missouri. We just pulled up to the farm we're going to be hunting this evening. Got a couple good bucks in daylight, and we've had a really nice cool front come through. We got a north wind tonight, and the stand we're going to be hunting tonight, I killed a nice buck out of it last year, a nice mature deer, and we've got several on camera this year, including one that looked exactly like him that we're coming for tonight. The wind's out of the north just a little bit. It's nice and cool. We're hoping these deer will be on their feet before they go nocturnal. The crops are starting to come out. It's starting to feel a lot more like fall. Looks like we should have just a little bit of wind tonight, nothing crazy, so hopefully we can get in here and get a buck on the ground before things get too crazy this season. Stay tuned, we'll let you know. We're on stand here the first evening, and it's a 3% chance of rain this evening, and the clouds are rolling in. Hopefully we're more successful than the weatherman. We're still waiting out here. Hopefully these deer start showing up, but whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So if it's not one thing, it's the next. Looks like we're gonna get a little bit wet, so stay tuned. We're out here tonight. It's October 18th. We're at a place we call Mother's Place. We've hunted here several times before, and we got a lot of bucks on camera. We actually picked up a new buck on camera that we haven't seen for a while. We got quite a few shooters back here, and they're starting to get closer and closer to daylight. So if they keep making the same increments, we're hoping that they'll be coming around shooting time tonight. All right, guys. It's about 5:30. We got several deer moving around, and back here coming out of this bedding area, we got 3 does. So that's a good sign. Hopefully some of these deer will be on their feet tonight. We'll get something in range. All right, we're in here, and it's the 20th of October. We're actually sitting over corn and beans, and we got a bedding area here close by. Saw a couple deer on the way in, so hopefully there will be some moving this evening. Like I said, it's October 20th, so we're hoping that the deer will be moving and start moving soon, and hopefully it's tonight. Alright guys, we're in here. It's October 21st. Cooling down a little bit this evening. We got a northeast wind. And we did some long distance, long range scouting here last night. We saw 3 shooter bucks out in this field. Checked our trail cameras. They're all really good bucks. They're all mature and they're all shooters. So hopefully we got something to bring to you. They've been coming out of this north bedding area here and also out of this south bedding area. Our wind's blowing that way, so we're good to go. Hopefully we got a deer on the ground tonight.
We appreciate you watching Point of Impact exclusively on the Pursuit channel. Be sure to visit our website at www.pointofimpacttv.com. Here you have the opportunity to see photos, videos, visit our sponsors, get to know our crew, shop for our latest Point of Impact gear, and even link to our social media platforms. So join the conversation and always be up to date with the Point of Impact team.
The spot that Kim and I were hunting today is a spot that I've had a lot of success at. It's actually a pretty typical spot in the woods, and it looks like every other spot, but one thing that separates it from a lot of other timbers that I've been in is the differentiation of different types of bedding area. We've got tall grass, we've got some marshy type areas, we've got big timber, snags, and brush, and we never go back into that part. So it's south of our stand. Anytime we have a south wind, barring some sort of unforeseen circumstance, we're gonna be in that stand anytime we can. I hunted that stand 5 times in the past 2 years and have killed 3 bucks and missed 1 out of it. By being minimally intrusive down there, getting a good food source down there, and not bothering the deer whenever we're not hunting, we feel like this is a good spot that we always can go, and at the right time of the year have a really good chance to get a buck on the ground. And that's just what happened today. Alright guys, it's the morning of October 31st. Here in Missouri, it's nice and cold. The rut started to kick in. We're hoping to catch a deer moving through this timber here. Either looking for a doe or moving through to get some to eat in the food plot. So we'll keep an eye out. We'll see what happens. There's several good bucks in here that we've seen here pretty regularly, so hopefully we can make something happen. This hunt actually started out kind of slow. We didn't see too many deer moving around. We saw a buck and a doe working a scrape line to the east of our stand. And in Missouri, on the farms that we hunt, the end of October, early November, we're expecting to see a lot of deer and a lot of buck activity, and we just weren't seeing that. And I didn't know what the deal was, and the sun started to get up high in the sky, and it was kind of melting some of that frost off, and I thought, man, these deer they're not gonna move where we're at right now. And so Kel and I kind of talked. Obviously we were in it for the long haul. We like to be in the stand most of the day when the wind and weather permits that time of the year. And we were kind of just looking through the woods, looking for deer, and Kale spotted a deer right behind us. When I say right behind us, I mean you had to look down to see this deer. And it came moving through. It all happened quick. I got my bow, and the deer moved into place just like you always want it to work. It doesn't always work that way, but this time it did. We've been in the stand a couple hours, and we've seen one really good buck over here to the side making a scrape. He was behind a doe, but other than that, we haven't seen anything. And I kind of figured they'd be moving a little better, but maybe as the morning progresses, they'll start to move a little bit and the sun starts shining. Hopefully these bucks will get up and start working the scrapes and chasing does. Maybe we'll get some action. Right here, deer, buck right behind us, right behind. He's coming around right here. Right here. when I made the shot on this deer, you never know 100%, but when I saw the deer set up for the shot, it was a bow hunter's dream, 30 yards, quartering away, nothing hindering my shot at all. So I had a good view of it, a good shot of it. We reviewed the film several times, and I knew that he wouldn't go too far, but coming up on the deer, it's always a sigh of relief no matter how good you know your shot was.
We saw this deer crash over here, about 80 yards from us, we think. So we're gonna get down and we've given him some time. We're gonna ease over that way and see if we can't find him. Like I said, we think he's laying right over here. It looked like a pretty good shot. We reviewed the film and it looks good. So hopefully we'll be behind a deer the next time you hear from us.
All right, guys, we got this buck down here in the timber. Got him in the food plot here. And this week's been really good for point of impact. Up north, the guys got on 2 really nice bucks this week. And so Kale and I were feeling the pressure, ready to get one on the ground ourselves. We've been hunting really hard this year. And this morning, we knew it was gonna be a good morning, or we hoped it would be. And we saw a buck cruising over here today that was a really nice buck, one we'd seen on camera. And then this guy kind of stepped out of nowhere mid-morning, and we were more than happy to get him on the ground. He was working a scrape line up through these timber like a lot of these deer in this woods do. And he never saw us, and we got some good film of him, and he stepped right in the shooting lane. And when he stepped in the slot, I pulled back and let him have it about 30 yards. And I can't say enough about Rage. We're sponsored by Rage this year, and this is the first year I've done a lot of work with Rage, and everything that I've shot with the Rage this year has just really left me impressed. We got the new 3-blade cores out here, and this deer ran about 60 yards from where we shot him. We got to see him go down from the stand, and so that's always really nice. Really thankful to be able to get this buck on the ground. Thanks, guys, for watching. I've had a really good year this year. I took down 2 nice bucks during the peak of the rut in Missouri. I also got married, and I wondered if my wedding might kind of coincide and interfere with deer hunting a little bit. Obviously, the wedding would be my top priority, but I kind of wondered how that would happen. As things played out, I had 2 nice deer on the ground, and Steven and the guys were able to come down. Kale was in my wedding, so the Point of Impact crew had a nice showing at the wedding, and I married my beautiful wife, who actually happens to be the family that owns all the ground I hunt on. So things worked great, and I don't think it could have worked out any better. This whole season has been a little different for Kale and I, because we've always been really good friends, but we've always been kind of going our own way and doing our own thing when it comes to deer hunting and meeting up and sharing stories later. But this year we were in the stand and in the field a lot together. So whenever I got my deer down, as we talked about farm management, it was time to move on to Kale's, because he has a lot of good later season and rut spots. So when I got my deer out of the way, it was time for me to get behind the camera and let Kale do a little shooting.
Going into the 2014 bow season, I knew that there'd be a lot of good genetics going on in my farm. And I had a lot of deer at 3 years old that I knew would be great at 4, but there was one deer I kind of had in the back of my mind. I knew what he would be. And he's nothing really spectacular. He's just a solid 8-pointer that's been around the farm for a long time. The story of him kind of dates back to 2011. I was rifle hunting with my little brother, and this deer comes out and he works a scrape, and I give my little brother the green light to shoot, and he misses. He shoots over the deer. So I started going through trail camera pictures, kind of like kept a file of, my little brother's buck. I started watching the next few years, and sure enough, he'd show up on trail camera, but it wasn't really that consistent. He would show up for like a week, he'd be gone for another week. So I always had him in the back of my mind, but I never thought that I actually get the opportunity to kill him. So going into this season, I knew he'd be probably one of the bigger, more mature deer on the farm and probably run the farm. So I decided that maybe a decoy would be the best way to go about it. And so I set up a decoy on, I believe, November the 1st. Normally I'm not big into blind calling, but I thought maybe there'd be an opportunity that, since this deer was the most dominant buck on the property, that it might make him mad enough he'd get out of his bed before daylight and head my way to check things out. But it didn't work out like that. There was actually 3 other deer that came into the decoy. One of them, just a really good 3-year-old, probably 135 inch. The second one that actually knocked the decoy over, he was nothing spectacular either, 120 inch 8-pointer. The third one, actually, you can't really see very well on film, but he comes into the decoy and he was a little bit downwind, and he caught scent about 5 yards away from the stand. I'm in a cedar tree, so I couldn't get a shot through the cedars, and the cameraman couldn't get the film through the cedar either. So I probably would have taken that buck, and I had an opportunity with him a few days later. I was trying to actually sell film, and I didn't get it done there. But the decoy was a success and a failure at the same time. I learned a lot about decoying, and I look forward to doing it in the next years.
All right, it's the morning of November 3rd. We've had 4 deer Yeah, they are. They're really close to it. We're in a pinch point. I mean, that's really all this is the ditch comes up this way and the hill comes down. And it's just easy for them to walk through, so that's why they do. It's a great place to hunt this time of the year. I think it's going to be a good morning. We got a south wind. It's about 50 degrees. It's fairly warm, but last night was a good night. Youth season just ended in Missouri. I think it's going to be a really good day. We'll see what happens. As I predicted, it's been a pretty good morning. We've had about 10 little does and 2 bucks come by this morning. They were all in range, so that's a good sign. I don't think any of the does were in estrus. A little 7-point came out and started pushing on the little, but he didn't chase any of them hard, so I think they're close, but they're just not quite there yet. You know, I think it's just a matter of time. There's a lot of does that still haven't went into estrus, a few that have, so the bucks are chasing pretty hard. I mean, the rut is on full swing, and it's, in the last couple of years, the rut really hasn't been that good, and this year, I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen so far. I've seen more chasing just alone so far this year than I did all of last year, so I don't know if the buck to doe ratio is more in check, or what the deal is with that, but, I mean, I've seen a ton of deer chasing does, so hopefully one will just run right by here 20 yards and we can get a good shot on it.
Alright guys, we just pulled up into the field tonight that we're going to be hunting, and it's December 29th. Tomorrow's supposed to be a cold front. Pretty sunny day out, so I think they'll be hitting this wheat pretty hard. But the deer that we're going after tonight has been giving me fits pretty well all season. Joseph and I have been after this deer. I tried to decoy him, that didn't work. He's about 7 years old as far as what my trail camera shows, so hopefully he'll stomp on in and get something to eat tonight. And I'm using a muzzleloader. Even though I really don't like to use a muzzleloader, I like to kill him with a bow, but he's just outsmarted me, so I figured I'd pick up the gun. And hopefully tonight will be the night. We'll see.
Alright, we just got set up in this field, and what we have here tonight is, it's a wheat field that's on top of a ridge, so these deer feel pretty safe being up on top of the ridge. Normally the deer are very skittish this time of the year since rifle season just ended. So we decided we weren't going to go to one of my usual stands. We were going to sit on the ground and hopefully get about a 150-yard shot at this deer, maybe closer. But if they come in tonight, I think they will, because the does have been feeding pretty regularly, so I know there should be some does out in this field. If they don't smell us and blow off the field, he should come out. The trail cameras have been having him come out about every night, so hopefully he shows up. If not, we'll just be after him again tomorrow. But I tell you what, this deer's been giving me fits all year. Hopefully I get the job done tonight. Oh my goodness, man, give me some. That's what I'm talking about.
The way our farms are managed, we go about as hardcore as you can go with it, and normally we're hunting 150, 160 inch deer, but you know, the size of the antler really doesn't tell you how smart the deer is. Like this deer I have more respect for than any 150 or 160 inch deer that's ever lived on my farm. Last year actually I picked up his first shed, and as you can tell he didn't really change a whole lot. His brow tine got a little bit longer, but he stayed fairly about the same size. This deer has taught me a lot about mature deer, and got the teeth back, and I dated back to how old this deer was. He was 7.5 years old, which for Missouri with the rifle season, that's just absolutely unbelievable. I have more respect for this deer than any deer I'll probably ever kill.
Last night I couldn't get a good interview in because it was so dark, so I decided I'd bring him back to the same field this morning and give him a respectable interview. And you know, I can't say enough about this deer, even though he's not a giant by any means. He by far probably the oldest deer I'll ever kill. I couldn't get it done with a decoy. I thought I would because he was a dominant deer, and he stumped me there. So I decided maybe in rifle season I'd kill him with a bow. I couldn't get that done either. So finally I gave up on him with a bow, and I decided to try killing him with a muzzleloader. And sure enough, he came out in that field with 16 does, I believe, and just nosed his way up towards me. And I made a pretty good shot at him, about 175 yards. Even though it wasn't with the bow, I couldn't be happier. This is a dream come true, really.
Joseph and I would like to thank the landowners to give us the opportunity to watch and grow these mature whitetails. Without them, we wouldn't have the land to do it, and it means so much to both of us. Hopefully what you guys learned from this episode is you don't have to have large tracts of land to kill big deer year in and year out. We want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.